What's up, bro? How's your New Year's going?
It's good, dude.
You ain't been on since December, right?
Yeah. No.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Early December. I think I did the first 2 weeks, and
So
then
it's been almost a month and a half since you've been on, bro.
Dog. Dude, New Year, same thing. I don't got no resolutions, bro. I'm just doing the same thing. I ain't doing no 21-day fast. I ain't doing no 21-day Bible plan right now. I'm just same thing, different day,
staying
bro.
saved every day.
Same thing. We do Lent at our church, so we do the fasting during the Lent season. So.
Oh, nice. Is that good, like a Korean thing? I don't want to be racist, but is that like a Korean thing, or that's like a Pastor Will thing?
It's a Catholic.
Well, yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
And then I picked it up from more the formation world.
Oh,
yeah, because they're all about that.
The white church.
Yeah, the Spanish church that influenced the white church.
The Spanish church influenced the formation movement?
Well, just all the Lent stuff, Catholic church.
Some stuff I don't know in the Christian church. Is that the John Mark Comer stuff?
Well,
no?
I would say for me, I was introduced to Lent to people like Henry Nouwen, Saint Ignatius, Dallas Willard. And yeah, obviously John Mark's he's the guy right now.
Is he the new guy of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say. He's like the modern Dallas Willard from what I'm picking up.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
So he's he's the go-to.
I know a lot of people follow a lot of his stuff. I've just never engaged with any of it, so I don't really know what the niche is. But when you say formation, I know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a good year so far. Lent.
That's
We do
great.
Lent. We do 40 days of Lent. And that's new. I just started doing that a year ago. And we're a new church, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not something you've done in any previous setting or something.
I did it last year for the first time.
For people who don't know what Lent is,
yeah, it's
can you
just
explain it to them?
it's just 40 days of concentrated time thinking about Good Friday and Easter. So it's like Pentecost is like the 50 days after the resurrection. Lent is like entering into the story of the cross over 40 days. So we'll do like Lent devotionals, and we typically fast.
Normally it's Fridays, isn't it?
It starts Wednesday. Ash Wednesday is the kickoff, and it goes all the way to Good Friday.
But the fasting part is on Fridays, is it not? Or you'll fast
Depends.
the entire 40 days?
A lot of people encourage people to do some type of fast for 40 days.
Got it.
Because
Okay.
the whole thing about Lent is entering into the suffering of Christ.
Yeah.
So he fasted 40 days in the wilderness. He was tempted 40 days. So last year I did no sugar for 40 days.
Nice.
This year I'm doing no cigars for 40 days.
Oh, shit. For those that know, that's a big deal. That's a big deal for this.
I'm gonna be
for this Reformation guy, this Reformation guy. That's a big move for you, bro.
Last year I thought about doing no cigars for 40 days. Like I ain't ready for that.
The Lord hasn't set you up for that yet.
So this year,
I had a homie years ago when we were single. I was working in San Diego, and we were gonna go out, and he was like, "No, I'm doing Lent, so no Hennessy, no sex for 40 days."
It's a wild world, dude.
Yeah, that's.
Wait, was he married?
Church. No, he wasn't married.
People, you know,
Yeah,
the Protestant church doesn't have too many, like every Protestant is different in their expression and what they knew, Baptist, Southern Baptist, all that.
Yeah.
But like the Catholic, they're all resemble a same, like similar Christology. And so it's funny if someone is Catholic, but like doesn't go to church. But Lent, they're going to have one discipline. Like they're not going to go to church.
Yeah.
They're not going to read their Bible, but like
fish fillets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or I be
Fish only.
Or I be
so
telling
funny,
people
you know?
often like, "Oh, Pastor, I'm gonna fast like this." I'm like, "That's not called fasting. That's just called self-control, dude." So I'm not gonna watch this TV show for a week. I'm like, "What, bro? That's not fasting, dude."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're gonna do something this year for we're gonna do Holy Week, 7 days.
Okay.
That's.
You're gonna call people to fast.
I think I have that as an option, but we'll do a Bible plan for it and some concentrated daily reflections. And
That's good.
Because we did, we're doing our Bible plan right now,
Yeah,
and it's been very successful.
Like over 6,000 people reading the word.
6,200 people in
I
our
just saw
Bible
that.
reading plan. Yeah, it's crazy.
That is crazy.
We were originally were hoping for like a week. We thought of it like 3 weeks before the new year.
Yeah.
And then we contacted YouVersion and was like, because they need like a month and a half or 2 months or something like to approve your plan. And we just asked them for a big favor and they were willing to do it. So we were like, we'll be happy if maybe 1,000 people do it.
Crazy.
So 6,200 is great. So that's why we were like,
That's
me and
a
Aaron were
metric
talking,
right
we're like,
there,
we should
bro.
do that Holy Week also.
Yeah,
Just
bro.
do some more really dedicated efforts towards it. You know,
That's great. We almost did something like that, but we're holding it off for now. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, bro.
You know,
So you got anything planned for the church for the new year? Other than, like you said, just doing your reg?
2 services.
Oh.
I was just talking to Aaron.
You growing?
We're growing.
That's great.
We're growing. And so we should have done 2 services like a year ago.
Yeah.
So 2 services. We're in that season we got to create infrastructure, dude. We're in the infrastructure season now. So now, like, there's so much momentum, but our back door is just as big as the front door. So it's just a whoop, whoop. And then there's like a shift that's happened. So we need to create spaces for pastoring people. So I was even telling Aaron, we just started our small groups, and we only had room to accept 175 people. Yeah. And because we don't have enough leaders for that. We announced it 1 week, 250 people signed up.
Hungry.
So we just were like, all right, y'all, home groups are
You're
done.
all leaders.
So we were literally calling people, hey, how long you been saved? You've been 6 months? All right. You want to be a home group leader? So we had to recruit like 10 more leaders.
Yeah.
And so but we had to close it, you know. So people are like, hey, I'm sorry, dude. Like, I know we only announced it once, but we have a wait list. So we're in that phase, bro. We're in that season.
Yeah.
But it's been good, man.
That's
Small
huge.
groups, discipleship, second service, while trying to maintain a healthy pace. That's my whole thing. So
Yeah.
Long game. I was telling him my temptation is to make short-term decisions with short-term results, but I have to be thinking about the long-term game. So we could grow fast, but we could also bleed out like this.
I was late coming here with you guys because that's what me and my dad were talking about was walking. There's a couple church organizations that want him to come and talk about transition, and he and I were just reflecting, and he's just like, I'm reflecting on like the differences between me and you, and you know, like what God has made you for versus what He made me for, and that's basically the reoccurring consolidating thing that he and I talk about is the fact that he's a pure builder, and he'll build to his demise, and so he'll he built our church originally with his time. Like that was his thing. Like he just gave every ounce of time that he had towards it, but it built, man, it grew and it grew fast. Sure. But it grew like he couldn't hire well, he couldn't pastor people well, to the point that he wanted to, right? Like others may say, like, I thought he did great. But like in his head, and we walking alongside of him now for, 14 years on staff, 13 years on staff, you see that, like we were literally just talking about it when I came in, but it was like, I hired people based off, and I put people in leadership in the church based off their resume, not their heart. Because I was building so fast, I only had enough time to give them a 30-minute coffee meeting, and as long as what they were saying sounded right on paper, it was like put them in and go, and then they would leave a train wreck of hurt people, rather than having a systematic infrastructure with leaders that he has poured into. And there were people he's poured into in a discipleship process, but on a leadership process where he duplicated himself, not so much. So he couldn't pass off and say, hey, I want you to really own this. I really want you to own this. It was more so, here's my vision, go and do it. Here's my vision, go and do it. Here's my vision. And in the moment they hit the end of that paper on what to do, they would make up the rest, which would then, which would then end up hurting everybody in their wake, or making them think that they're a church within a church. And then that's how you have leaders leaving, because they go, I can do what that guy does because I'm doing it now. And then they try and they leave and it doesn't work.
If your dad's a builder, what do you think you are?
So the way we're putting it, like I'm doing a staff teaching next week. We go up for a huddle and we do 2 days with some of our leaders, and then our rest of our staff joins. But the basically what it is, the way we're languaging it is Diego's a dreamer, Adam's a schemer. So I'm that Jacob. Like I more so have a little bit of, I have a scheme to me. Like it's more of like a plan. It's like, hey, we have to, if we're going to build, like we have to have some type of scheme around this. We had to have a playbook, because if we don't, Diego was a dreamer. He was Joseph. So he would be in Potiphar's palace, but then he'd be running out the room. He'd make it to top of the chain of the prison, but then he'd have to leave the prison. It's like, that's my dad. It's just such a builder. Wherever circle he's in, he's going to build it. Yeah. But then he'll find himself the moment he's out of that circle. I got to build again. So he's a builder, dreamer. Like that's him. And then I'm more so of that planned schemer that builds out of like a vision and like there's passion behind it. But for me, like I have to know what's at the end of the road, where my dad was more so like the Facebook model. Let's run fast and break things. It's just like, let's build it. If it don't work tomorrow, we'll tear it down and start over. It's like, and you could do that till a point,
yes. And that was that generation too.
For sure. Right. And that's what we're talking about. It's like in the 90s and 2000s, that's the type of church many people wanted to go to is the guy who is willing to put himself on the platform and build it. Yeah. Build it to say, hey, to me, like he and I were just talking about, it was like the model of like, follow me as I follow Christ. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the model that he would lead off of, which was big in the 90s and 2000s. Like you positioned a leader, you said, I'm following that guy because I'm trusting he's following Christ, rather than maybe like a newer age of things, which takes longer and it takes time. But it's really like, which to me, they're not necessarily, but neither of them are wrong and neither of them are right. It's just the fruit you get on the other side. Whereas the other one is like, on this rock, I'll build my church. So it's this idea that the rock is the foundational, the cornerstone of the vision of Jesus and to make disciples. And it's like, we're all putting in towards this thing. I'm not going to put in more work than you're going to put in. You're not, and that's the idea is like, I may be the principal leader of this congregation, but we're all going to put in for this vision where the old way was much more of a Catholic way, which was every church had a pope. It was their senior pastor. The senior pastor was the pope. Yeah. Whatever the senior pastor does, is involved with, wants to do, whatever. And it's part of that American celebrity culture type thing, which is why people ask, why are there pastor celebrities? Well, people make pastor celebrities. Celebrity pastors don't make themselves celebrity pastors.
I heard I'm a quote guy. I heard a quote from a pastor who said, your dream should be so big that other people find their dreams in yours. I was like, dude. I was like, and I feel like oftentimes if you're going to be scaling, you got to have such a big dream that you're finding other people's whose dreams fits into your dream, but it's not you doing it all, right? It's you giving them a position and a space for them to fulfill their calling and their giftings, but you're working together in the same direction, right? Versus like your dad's OGs, it's like, I'm preaching 7 times a week. I'm leading the staff meeting. I'm
on an airplane.
I'll even lead worship if I have to. I'll be at every single meeting. But I feel like our generation is more like, let's get a team around us. Let's find all different gifts, but we're all walking in the same direction, right? But then the senior leader needs to have the vision that's big enough that other people are like,
I could see myself.
Yeah, I was thinking like
developing in that.
Like how many engineers found their dream fulfilled under Jeff Bezos? How many software engineers found their dreams under Elon? How many tech people found their dreams because this senior leader has such a big vision for what could be? So I'm excited for what's up next with y'all, man. I'm telling you, dude, this is gonna be great. Abundant Living about to go to Mars.
We got some plans this year. It's probably our biggest year since. It will be our biggest year since 1994 for sure.
I know,
30 years. Yeah.
I know, dude.
Yeah. We'll let everyone know on April 21st.
That's what we were talking about earlier. Yeah.
Oh, where are you guys?
I was asking all his questions. He's like, you'll know in April, dog.
Do you know anything yet?
I know a little bit, bro.
Oh, okay.
I keep track.
Okay, yeah, you do know some of it.
I talk to you here and there. I know some other things.
It's
exciting, bro.
Yeah.
I feel like as like a church planner, every time I come to Abundant, I'm around some homies who they're like more established, right? It just gives me like inspiration and hope. Like we're in the grind of it, right? There's seasons of plowing, seasons of sowing, seasons of harvesting, seasons of pruning. I'm in the season of plowing. I don't even feel that I put seed. I'm still taking those rocks out. Like is this soil even worth it, right? But when I see the longevity of faithfulness, like church like Abundant, and you've been in the game for over a decade too. So it's not like you're new to the scene. But I see this generation of passing on and honor. And so it's just like when I come here, I go like, God, maybe one day like we'll be in places like this, right? But also giving myself grace.
right.
So it's beautiful every time I come here, dude. Every
Yeah.
time, dude. But,
As we were talking about, you've been like, you're kind of unique because you're a church planner within a church. So you have both sides of the, like, you're listening to Will and you're like, oh yeah, I can relate. But then also you're internally to like what I'm saying. You were under two different leaders, you know, positionally for.
You were with Pastor Diego before.
Yes. I only made the recommendation to bring Aaron on the team. This year will be 8 years.
Yeah.
8 years ago. Our story and how we met actually pretty funny. I don't think we've ever shared it on the podcast, have we?
I don't think we shared it on the podcast.
That's a good story to share for the podcast. I'll let you share it.
So
it's pretty good.
He pull up on you or something?
right.
Actually,
it would have happened the opposite way.
Actually, the opposite. I come here Easter 2010.
Okay.
I don't know anybody. I just know that I'm doing marriage wrong. I'm doing manhood wrong. I want to get it right. So I just need to find a church. End up at ALFC on Easter. Pastor Diego challenges us on Easter. Come to the church a year straight. See what God will do in your life. So I just took that challenge. So I came Wednesday. It just so happens he's doing a sermon series on the Christian atheist. So I'm a PK. That really resonated with me because it's like, dang, I'm a Christian atheist. I know all the stuff. My heart's not in this. So this is 2010. So the challenges from the pulpit, I would just accept the challenges. So I just started serving in youth. That's all it is. So from serving in youth, the church became smaller. So once the church became smaller, I started really having this value of community. Because you come here, it's like Disneyland, which means it's beautiful, but you can sneak in and sneak out.
Yeah.
Once you start serving, you got other brothers and sisters that check in on you. How are you doing? How's your marriage? Blah, 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 blah. Really love that sense of community. And for me, I had a real hunger for the Bible because I grew up in church. I didn't grow up with Jesus. So once I fell in love with the scriptures, man, I want to break bread with brothers. So I started something in my house called Man Cave. Fast forward 5 years later, we're doing the Milk and Honey Conference. There was a guy.
That was my youth conference when I was the youth pastor. Yeah.
There was a guy. He has tattoos everywhere. And I am triggered by that look because that's my wife's ex-husband's look. But I felt a sense of go invite him to your house for your man cave proverb study. I'm like, I don't know this guy. I don't invite this guy, right?
He's bald, so literally his head is tattooed, like covered. I'm
gonna invite this guy, right? Go up to him, invite him to the house. He comes. We're talking, blah, 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 blah. That happens. Just so happens that that's Pastor Adam's tattoo artist. He's getting a tattoo. And the guy's like, man, I'm at this guy's house. They're talking about Proverbs. It's diverse. It's cool. And what's been in his heart is, man, I really want to help the church pivot more into home groups, neighborhood groups. But I don't think black people let people in their homes.
Yeah.
Which is a true statistic.
100%.
Black people only let family in their home. People they consider family.
But I really felt like I was just following a prompting of the Lord. Like I would not like.
And also back then we were a diverse church, but we are a segregated diverse church, which means everybody sat next to each other in service. But when they went out in the courtyard, they got into their circles. So Hispanics kind of hang out with Hispanics, African, which we are majority African American. African American kind of covered the campus. And then if you were white, you kind of had a few friends. And so we were very segregated on Sunday, even internally. And so I was the only one. I started at staff 2012. I started a home group the day I started, a study of the Book of Mark. Yeah, for 2 years I did Book of Mark. Then we did other books, but it took us 2 years to study the Book of Mark. And so I did that from 2000. We did the Book of Mark from 2012 to 2014. And then 2015, I think we moved on to Romans or something like that. And so that year would have been, what, 2015?
Or earlier, 2014, 15.
Yeah, so I'm about 2 years into my thing. So when I'm talking to my tattoo artist and he tells me he went to study, I laughed and I literally said, oh, was it just a room full of Mexicans? Because that's what I expected, because that's kind of what our church had unfortunately assimilated to post services. So I make that joke, oh, it's just a room full of Mexicans.
So when it
and he
wasn't,
was like, no, it's a black dude
up.
leading it. And I was like, a black guy leading it? You know? And then he kind of started explaining him, and I was like, I was his daughter's youth pastor, so I was like, I think that sounds like Eileen's dad, but I'm not, like, he's serving in youth under my like associate youth pastor. But I was like, I've never heard anything about him at the time. And so then I went and talked to my associate youth pastor he served with. He's like, yeah, man, he's a solid dude. He's helping me on Saturdays, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. And I'll let you continue. So that's like in my head what's going on, you know, like.
So I'm a business guy. I didn't do none of this for ministry. I did this to be a biblical man. So I just knew we needed community. So when Pastor Adam reaches out to me, I thought I was like in trouble because I didn't know the church stuff. I came from a small Baptist church when I was a kid. He hits me up and he's like, heard you doing something called Man Cave, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah. He was like, why are you doing it, blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, honestly, like I was looking for something that I can do, that I could be a part of, but I didn't see it, so I started it myself. Then he says, how can I help you? That was a game changer for me. So he was like, I'm doing a whole study on the book of Mark. I said, well, I don't really know what I'm doing. I just pick a day of the week, whatever the day of the week it is. That's the chapter of Proverbs we on. Can you send me? He sends me his whole Mark study. I'm blown away. I'm like, this guy's generous. Who is this guy? He didn't know.
Because at that time, I'm really just Pastor Diego's son. You know, like it's kind of.
I've never met Pastor Diego.
Yeah.
But I've been to church for years. But I've just come into church. I'm a disciple. So he doesn't know that I lost my job. He doesn't, and I'm not doing this to, you know.
Yeah.
But randomly, he hits me up. Hey, let's go have coffee. Hey, we've been observing you. Fast forward, so we've been observing you for a year. You're serving, your wife's serving, your daughter's. Hey, what about this role? Blah 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 blah. And I'm like, what in the world's going on? But then again, like, I love how it was like spirit led, where it wasn't like strategic of me trying to get to know who the guy is and everything like that. So fast forward to answer your question about the dynamic of...
well, let me add some other context real quick.
Okay.
So he had his MBA and a master's in business. So that was already like really there. So we went to coffee because then there was another like kind of conversation that happened. The first one in coffee, I said, have you ever considered a call to ministry? And you were
let me share this. I'll never forget this. But I just forgot it right now.
I'll never forget this, but I skipped it.
Those are the days we were wrestling. But now it's like, I was just a past, but now you're like...
I was big
shaking,
I was big wrestling
fear.
because this was the season my grandfather died. My house was flooded, so I wasn't even in my house at this time. I was out
in a
my
hotel,
house.
right?
I was in but then they moved us into an apartment. We were out of our house for so long, and then I went from being an assistant vice president at Bank of America to then making less than what my daughter was making. Got a job. You know, my daughter was working at Starbucks, so I'm just going through just a whole
that's crazy,
right? But this burning desire to be in the scriptures and just help disciple people. Yeah. So then I go to coffee with Pastor Adam, and he's like, hey, do you feel that you have a call to be a pastor? And I said, I have a burning desire to help people, but I don't have the faith to say I'm a pastor.
And you're a PK.
Correct.
Multiple full circles here.
But what I didn't tell him, I don't even know if I told you to this day, I've committed that I never be a pastor.
That's what I figured.
Because all you do as a pastor is you just learn how to suffer well and you don't make money. That's what I saw with my dad. So I was like, wait, no, I'm gonna get my master's. I'm gonna make money. I'm gonna sit in
I'll
the
give money to the church type of thing.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I heard when Pastor Garfield got ordained, and it was like, oh, he worked for 30 years and now he's a pastor. I said, oh, maybe that'll be my story. As long as I make bread and then I get right. So when he says, hey, do you feel you called to be a pastor? I don't have faith to say I'll be a pastor. He said, I do. Oh, that was game changer. That was game changer. And then from there, they was like, oh, let's do a tag team preaching with Pastor Diego. I had never met Pastor Diego. Do a tag team preaching with Pastor Diego on generational leadership, passing the baton.
Well, and also, so we're there, and we said that. I said, I have faith that you will. And he's like, oh, okay. And so I just like, I said, so here's what I recommend.
Were you still the youth pastor at that time?
I was the creative pastor at that time. So I still had no power.
He was functioning as apostolic as a creative
I had no
pastor.
I had zero
Calling out people's
power.
gifts.
I had zero power.
He was a youth kid's dad,
literally,
too.
Yeah. At that time, I wasn't on the executive team. I wasn't on the board. I just had a son's, I just had my dad's ear.
You just love God.
And so I couldn't even, I had nothing I could promise this guy.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even say, oh, I see, come on the team 12 months. I had zero power to do that.
Yeah.
So I just affirmed what I saw, and I said, I don't say this to everyone, but from where I see the Lord leading you, I highly recommend you go get your degree in Bible. And then Aaron's kind of response was like, I have my bachelor. What was your bachelor's in?
I have my bachelor's and master's from University of Laverne.
In business. So he's like, I have a bachelor's, I have an MBA. I'm like, that's beautiful. Other people, and I even knew my dad will be impressed by that. But where I believe the Lord is taking you, you have to know the Bible. There's just no way you're going to. I would recommend you to be a pastor if you didn't have some type of biblical education. Now we have some pastors on staff don't have formal biblical, but from where I saw, which is where he's at today,
his conviction was,
so
what he was doing.
Where the Lord has taken him today, I just really had a distinct. And so, but you say that kind of stuff to people all the time. We finished coffee. We went back and forth. I helped him with a logo for his Bible study, all that. We just kind of started like a loose relationship. I wouldn't even say friendship, just a loose relationship. Yeah, it's email. He don't even have my cell phone at the time. And so 1 month later, he messages me and says, hey, just so you know, I enrolled in Cal Lutheran. I'm
Baptist,
getting my
Baptist.
Or Cal Baptist. They're all
the same thing.
Yeah, they're all teaching the same stuff.
They're not Life Pacific. Everything else is just the same.
It's all Cal something, So he's like, I enrolled in CBU. I'll be done next. He said something like, I'll be done next December. They accepted me with a week to spare on the thing or whatever. I just want to let you know I'm working on taking my bachelor's. I took serious what you said.
Now you're thinking oh snap! He took my advice. I'm held responsible for this.
Oh, shoot, I have to do something about this now.
That's crazy.
Which then, fast forward a year later, I knew he was a few months away from finishing. At this time, I still had never mentioned about him to my dad. But we were trying to feel out who is next in our church that would be a great leader. So they already had a handful of people that were picked that I didn't feel comfortable with. Because again, I'm not in the room. So I didn't really feel comfortable with the individuals they had picked, but they were recommendations from other pastors. So I just threw in and I was like, I have a recommendation. And then everyone's kind of like, we never heard of this guy. Where is he? I'm like, he's in youth. He's serving. He's teaching. Aaron was in he leads a small group, blah, 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 blah.
He was in the hills of Bethlehem, bro. That's what he was.
Yeah, because he wasn't someone that was on the name of something in the church, right? He was just in youth, faithfully serving all the services we asked and, going on missions trips and leading his small group privately, which wasn't, connected to the church. So some could see that as this rogue thing or whatever, but I felt it was our problem, that he felt like he needed to do that. That was our shortfall. So I just was like, well, I have a name, his name's Aaron, blah, blah, blah. And my dad's like, yeah, okay. Tell him this is what I want to preach on. And I'm like, okay. And so we went with that. And then a few months later, I was like, hey, so, since our coffee thing a year ago, we've been watching you and we have this position opened. It was like pastor over business and other stuff like that. I said, but ultimately, I feel that you're called to launch our first campus.
Wow.
So that's when I said, but again, it's not my call.
Bro.
I was like, it's not my call. You can interview for it. And whatever the Lord does, I can't guarantee, what comes of it. But what I can say is, go give it a shot and see what happens. And that's kind of how the relationship formed at that point.
Yeah. And now at least when I was on y'all's YouTube just a couple of weeks ago, co-creating those vision videos together, co-pastoring with the campus together, doing life together is crazy how through simple acts of obedience over a long period of time reaps a harvest, an exponential harvest for his kingdom, And even as you're sharing, I'm thinking about people who are listening, we all have those seasons where you feel like, am I supposed to do this? Am I not supposed to do this? This sounds crazy. This sounds do I start this business? Do I not start this business? Do I make this career shift, and there's that like in between season where God brings voices to bring it out. Like I remember when I was much younger. My story is a little different from yours. My wife's a PK too. So our struggle was she was like, I would never marry a pastor. Like she liked me, I liked her, but she's like, never, right? So I know from her some of that stuff that comes with being a pastor's kid. But when I got saved radically, I remember I was in Mexico on a mission trip. I was 17 years old. And at that time, it was either I'm going to join UFC, I'm going to sign up for the army, or I'm going to go back to my old life and end up in jail or dead, right? So those are the only thoughts. But during that mission trip, my friends were like, yo, I got a vision from God. And God's called me to be a pastor. I got a vision from God. God's called me to be a missionary. And this is a super charismatic stream. And then the pastor himself is like prophesying over people. Like, God's called you to full-time ministry. I still remember I went up to him. I was like, hey, pastor, who's now my father-in-law.
Oh, my gosh.
He's the missionary.
Wow. Oh, my God.
I was like, hey, I'm feeling this pull to be called to be a pastor. He doesn't know me. He's like, I think you should be a doctor. And I was like, you don't know my story at all, dog. Like, you projecting on me, man. Doctor, right? Anyways. And then I remember I was wrestling the whole trip. I fasted during the mission trip, and I was praying. Got no vision, heard no voice of God, and I just told God, I don't need a vision. I'm going. Like, I'm gonna go the route to being a pastor, you know. And those small little things, and crazy how just like right, you just don't know what's on the other side of obedience. Like you just don't know what's on the other side of like taking that risk faith, you know what I mean?
I would say, bro, I didn't have full clarity that it was obedience. There were thoughts in my mind. Going to school at this stage means you're a bad father. Because this was the time Eileen's about to go to college. So why take on a student loan? Because I don't work at the bank no more. I don't have money like this. So now I got to go into debt for this. So it's one thing to be obedient with like, I'm not going to watch this TV show.
There's a huge cost.
There's a cost to that obedience of saying, if I'm going to go to this school and I don't have this job, then this is faith. Like that's a huge decision because I ended up working at Cal State San Bernardino being strategic because it gave me a significant discount for my daughter to go to school. Now I lose that job. And now I'm like, can't get this going to school thing out of my mind.
It's crazy.
But there's this other thought. You're supposed to put your kids first. It's their turn, da-da-da. But now in hindsight, I see the beauty in what God has done through that.
Yeah. I think the difference, though, for a lot of people who are listening to this, I think what I'm hearing from you, though, is like you weren't seeking opportunities.
No.
You weren't seeking a promotion. You were trying to be integral to the workings of the Holy Spirit. Right, because I think people get it mixed up. It's like, I'm going to quit this and get a better opportunity. And for you, it's like, at least in your mind, it's a pay cut. It's too late in my career. There's a cost to my family, my daughter, right? But for you, I always feel like God honors when our pursuit is like, God, I want to, with integrity and obedience, follow you. Right? And that's that risk factor, because at a certain point, following God costs you something.
Yeah. Well, and on the flip side, like I've had the negative effects of a situation like that happen because there was another person who was younger who had expressed to me that they felt they were called to ministry, and I could see it, and so I encouraged them. Well, you know, nobody wants a doctor operating on them who's never learned or gone to school. So go to some type of biblical education. Go to university. Go to an intensive program. Whatever it is. Like you need to be mentored in the area of Bible because it's our job to prescribe anecdotes for people's emotional, spiritual, natural problems. So, so, you know, I struggle with the idea of pastors who aren't considerably regularly leaning into their word and learning their word, because now you're like, what prescriptions are you giving? And Charles Spurgeon was famous. He wrote a book called Lecture to My Students, and he says that. He says, what good is a doctor who doesn't know how to prescribe treatment to people's issues? And he was telling the Bible students, like, that is your job as a pastor. You prescribe the word of God over people's issues. And so I said that to a young man, and so he enrolled in a university, and after about 6 months, I got one of the angriest, nastiest text messages you could ever get in your life saying, you know, you failed me. I went to school for you. Since then, nobody's reached out to me. Since then, I haven't been able to serve anymore because I'm so busy on school. And so the position I was serving at the church, like they put someone else. So now I'm just replaceable. And it's just, this is because of you. You're ruining my future. And how do I know I'm going to have a job on the other side of this? And all these other, you need to assure me that if I continue on for the next 3 years, that you will hire me on the other side. And I was like, oh, dang, you know, like, and we hashed it out, and I had a big brother talk with them and, you know, gave them some medicine that they needed, but it was like, oh shoot, now I see for that moment. Now I believe that person grew out of that, but not everyone does. For that moment, he articulated, I was obedient because I saw opportunity on the other side. And the moment I couldn't see the picture of opportunity anymore, now it's your fault. Now I did this for you. Now you owe me for some reason. And that's how we often view God. That's how we view people, you know?
And I also feel like as leaders, one of the things we learned the hard way is how to discern people, right? I heard a quote, another quote. There are people who are for you, and there are people who are for what you are for. And you have to be able to discern the two. Because if you think they're for you, but they're actually for what you're for, and you don't differentiate that, once they find a vehicle that would take them faster to the place they actually want to go, they'll jump off your train and go that direction. And I feel like what you discerned on Aaron was a calling.
Yeah.
You weren't telling him what to do. You were like, hey, I'm sensing the call of God, and I want to play my part and help you getting to that place. Versus other people, I've had that too, bro. Like, I'll say something and they hold it like the phrase, they idolize you, then they demonize you, right? And then you all of a sudden get demonized because they were actually using you, maybe not even with their own self-awareness, for their own personal agenda and opportunities. And that's huge, bro. And like leadership selection, making decisions, discerning, are these people just using God? Right? Are they just using the church? Are they just using platforms and ministries for their own personal ambition? Yeah. That's huge, bro. And I often feel like for me, the way I discern that is people like Aaron who's doing it with no one knowing. Like they're not even, who's Pastor Diego? Don't even know who I am. And to me too, that's always like my first sign that there's a disciple here that God's called me to like love, shepherd, and call forth. Versus the person who comes up and they meet me. Like,
in the third week they want to schedule a meeting.
And they're like, hey, Pastor, I have an MDiv.
Yeah.
I've been a pastor for 10 years. I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
Right? Versus the other person that's like, hey, Pastor, I've been here for a year. Like, it's my first time meeting you. I don't want to take your time. I just want to say thank you. God has transformed my life. And I'm like, like this is a son of the house that I'm not even aware of that God's at work at. And I need to start discerning what's now my part for the next stage of their
Well, and then you're leaving church and they're, sweeping the curb because they want to make it look nice. And then you go ask the person over those volunteers, hey, why is he sweeping the curb? And they're like, I don't know. He went to Home Depot and bought a broom today, and he said that the concrete wasn't looking good. And and they're like, oh, you didn't ask him to do that or her to do that? No, I didn't ask her to do that. You're like, oh shoot. And I do a lot of that stuff, and for people wondering, and the author, but we had our team read it, the Hero Maker. Hero Maker is a great book to start at, and that it starts with that phrase, I see in you. But like the way that I see in people isn't necessarily, because I know Hero Maker talks a lot about like, okay, now when you're in there, give them the responsibility as you see them or whatever, challenge them. Mine more so is like, I watch from afar, and I have a list. I have a list of young leaders. I have a list of people that I make in my phone of people that God has put on my heart, that has led me to pray for them and to, whether it's a call to ministry or in general, right? Yeah. But a lot of times, because I'm in the area of ministry, I'm praying for people in their future, whether the Lord will call them into full-time ministry or not. But I pray for them and then I just watch them. And then I go to certain staff and I just go, and many of them know by now, I just drop a coin and I'm like, Aaron, tell me about your son-in-law, Colin. I just start with a question And now they kind of pick up where I'm going at with it. But before, it'd always be like, oh, yeah, here's how we met. Here, blah, 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 blah. What's his, about his relationship with the Lord or anything like that? Man, Scott's strong. He just did a fast, and he was talking me through it. And he was struggling with this a year ago, and he told me, and he been so accountable to everything. And, it's like, and they start explaining stuff, and then I'll be like, oh, okay. Now I'll walk away, and 4 months later, I'll come back and like, yo, how's Colin doing? What's he doing for work right now? Is he happy with it? Do you know that? And I just start conversation, and then I just watch, and then, when I feel like the Lord, it's time, we just, okay, let's go do an I see in you with them. But you're doing that, like, for me, I'm doing that a year later, 2 years later, or whatever that means, I know there's lower impact stuff, small group. You could pass off a small group and stuff like that, but talking through. So I'm just always looking, like, at who God is developing. And if I was in the corporate space, I'd be building my company the same way. I'd be walking the halls. I'd be looking at people on their computers. I'd be looking at what are they doing. I'd walk in the the break room and mosey a little bit. I would, look at the staff party and see who's doing what, like who's helped cleaning up, who's throwing the trash, who, all that kind of stuff. Like, who's the highly critical person, like I'd be listening for all that stuff,
People don't know, man. Pastors are savages, dude. We'll be looking at people like this, dude. Why'd you say it like that? Why'd you give me that gift? Why are you being so nice to my kids? I'm kidding, I'm playing. But that's discipleship to me, bro.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's what Jesus did too. Jesus called to those whom he wanted, built a relationship, started pouring into them, and started seeing who rises up, who's where. Peter's a loud, arrogant, proud go-getter. All right, then you want that, you get that. You know what I'm saying? It's all about that, bro. Yeah.
Let's go back to that question.
You didn't answer.
So, I would go running with Pastor Diego every Wednesday for 3 years. I believe it really catapulted my leadership and just how I think as a biblical man. But what I would often tell him is, show me the picture and I'll show you the progress, because I'm a systems guy. He's a big picture guy. So I would just ask him, just show me what you see. Show me what you see, and I'll give you the steps to build it. And I think that's how Pastor Diego built his church, because he had such a big picture, and he bought the gifts that can do that part of the puzzle, right? I think the biggest difference that I'm learning under Pastor Adam's leadership, he's brought me next to him and say, hey, what do you see? How would you build it? I remember we were at dinner.
Oh, it's very different.
It's very different. And
it's help me build versus, hey, what do you see?
Thought partners. So it's like a lot of, so it takes more faith on my part and more humility. It takes a lot of risk on his part. And I think some employees under Pastor Diego's type of leadership can fall safe to not growing. I did what you asked me to do. This is what you asked me to do. So I don't have to think more because I checked off these boxes. This is what you wanted. Here's what you have. But when you have a leader that you already know that leader's heart and they trust your gifting and your wiring and this, well, what do you see? Yeah. What would you recommend? So I was going to say, we were at dinner with a leader and they said, hey, what will ALFC be known for in 10 years? And he said, ask Aaron. So that
don't get it wrong.
So in those moments, that's showing like the biggest difference in Pastor Diego's leadership, Pastor Adams. Both are phenomenal.
Yeah, of course.
I've learned so much under both.
Yeah.
But there's greater risk.
Yeah.
And then staff has to be able to transition to different leadership styles. Sometimes when your leader changes, a lot of times people want, well, be like my old leader or be like this leader. No, you're getting paid to be a Christian with an ALFC hat on. Like that's what it is. And now the principal leader for ALFC is now Pastor Adam. So there is a change. There is a difference. Course. So with me building the campus, starting under Pastor Diego being the number one guy, there will be certain things that these are the plays that we run. And I would check in more to ensure that we're ALFC. coming in more to under Pastor Adam's leadership. What do you think, bro? How should we do it? And then what I've started to notice, the little small acts of obedience over a consistent period of time brings you closer in to have influence on not just what the campus looks like, what ALFC looks like. And I didn't know, and I didn't sign up for that level of influence. I just wanted to be a faithful servant of the house. I just want to be a faithful son. What I've learned is, like talking about the other guys, if you're a son, you're not thinking about money, you're not thinking about promotion, you're thinking about inheritance. So like I always look for guys that are doing the chores without the cheers. Because if you're a son, you're doing chores. I don't need a boy because I preached. I'm doing my chores.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't have that mindset that like if you're a daughter of this house, you're a son of this house.
I'm definitely preaching that at our leadership meeting next week. It's gonna be entire chores or chairs. Which one are you?
Will's like, can I get the audio right after this?
That's already in my database. I just put it in there. That's good. That's good though. Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah. So I think this is not my church. This is not Pastor Adam's church. This is God's church.
Absolutely.
God has entrusted Pastor Adam to be the shepherd of this church.
Yeah.
So I'll fall in line to that.
Yeah.
When he notices that I'm so committed and falling in line to that and sees fruit in my life, he can now invite me to help make decisions for it.
Yeah.
That's why you would see me next to him and talking about 2024.
Yeah.
And I think that is the leadership younger generations want.
Yes, absolutely.
But what it requires is fruit that you've already have in private. I think certain leaders that are younger than me want to come with that inherent trust with no fruit or credibility yet.
Yeah, it's like people think David showed up out of nowhere to kill Goliath.
Correct.
But he had lions and bears he's killed for years before that. So now it was just, they always say success is when hard work meets opportunity, right? So you've had all this fruit and success, and then now you guys are working together to how can we maximize our gifts and our values. And I also think that's brilliant on Adam's part. Even for me, a lot of times, I was just telling Aaron on the drive here, I was on the phone with a few of our church people and our staff members, and we have to make decisions. And I realized when people think as an employee and not an employer, as if you got to start thinking as the owner, and you start making totally different decisions. So I was talking to our staff member, I was like, hey, I know you have your thoughts in your department, which is great. What would you do if you were me? Like, what decisions would you make if you were in my chair and you have full access and all decision-making power? Her mind just boop. And we had so many more creative, innovative problem-solving solutions versus just, because when you're thinking this, you're just thinking of task and just, but when you ask a question that makes them come up to the sky, they're like, oh yeah, if I were you, I would allocate the money this way. If I were you, I would build a team this way. Two completely different answers. So I feel like that type of questioning is a very empowering moment that even elevates people to think in ways they didn't even perhaps know they can do.
What I found over the years, what a lot of high D domineering leaders struggle to do that with, because the moment you do what you just shared, it means you no longer have become the principal figure of praise. And a lot of them don't want to share that space, right? So you're referring to the video you talked about, had me and Aaron in it. A more domineering, dominant leader is going to say, why should I share the stage with Aaron? It all falls on me. It's all conceptually came from me. Why would I create space? Because, like, why do I need to share it? I don't need to share it. And well, then now the people, I'm creating different leaders for the people to follow. And why would I do? And all of a sudden they go into everything that could go wrong, right? What if that person's not here next year? What did I just do? What did I, and they create, a fear monger in themselves and then it just goes, well, then it's better because I'm the owner and I'm going to die for this thing that I know for me, I'll be here till the end, but I don't know that they'll be there till the end. So therefore that's why I'm not going to take her. And if you go in a room and you're going to bring a financial decision, there's a certain level of equity now that you have to give to her, either privately or publicly, to say, hey, this was conceptually your idea. And so that person has to be recognized to a certain degree. They have to be appreciated to a certain degree, because now they've just exited themselves as a doer and became an equity share partner in the idea. And so if that person isn't eventually valued to the degree that they are, that's when they start wondering, like, is this a fit for me? Because this and that. And so, like, Aaron knows, like, from the video you're referring to what we did, like,
that was a dope video, by the way.
Oh, thanks, bro. Like, he knows that our plan over the next 4 or 5 years is to have, 6 to 7 more people in those type of videos that are sharing vision of ALFC. Yeah. So Aaron could even now go, like, no, I'm the guy. It's me, Adam, and Nathan. Like, we rock, and it's like, no, because it's like, because that's what some people would do, right? Yeah. Then they create a clique of a leadership team that goes, man, we don't share influence because this influence is perfect. Like, what would happen if the disciples at the 12 were just like, bro, 12 is a great number.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, let's stop at 12.
But it's not just on the leader's part to have all the risk and have all the empowering. It's my responsibility as well to have honor and humility to that. If he decides I'm not a part of next year's video, that I'm not. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
We did this, and I had
sure.
There was a time we were at a event. I don't know if you remember this, about a year ago, and he got invited to a room, and there wasn't space for me, but we went together. So he's like, "Hey, okay, this is what I can do. I can go, then I can come back and get you." And I said, "Hey, bro, I just want you in that room."
For sure.
Because when you're in that room, the church is better.
Absolutely.
I'm not put that pressure on you. But there are some people, well, you brought me together and now you're going to have nice omelets and I can't go there and then put pressure on the leader. Yeah. No, I say, you better be in there. I'm straight.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good.
Bro, I got a funny story to that. But before that, one thing I want to mention as you guys were sharing, you guys know Jim Collins, Good to Great.
I know the Good to Great.
But there's this one portion of his research, and I could be butchering the details, but they survey Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 50 companies over a period of like decades. And it's all data driven. And they get all the data, all the information, they synthesize it and give their results. And one of the things he said, and what it reminded me as you guys were sharing, was the difference between a level 4 and level 5 leader. All the CEOs are the same. They all went to the same schools. Yeah. They all got similar profiles. They got similar gift mix. But what turns someone to like a Fortune 500, 50 company, a level 5 leader cares more about the vision of the company than themselves. Versus a level 4 leader, their ego is still attached to the company. So it is, for a level 4 leader, they need the credit. For the level 4 leader, they won't give up power because it's about them. A level 5 leader, the moment they find someone that's more gifted than they are in that role, they're like, yo, we need you. Because the vision of the organization is way more important than my ego and my glory and my praise. So I feel like the way you guys are talking, even when you're saying, hey, you go into that room, doc, like, I'm good. I'm just chilling, So I feel like, but on your end too, as the homie, you're like, I want you there.
I'm like, yeah.
God's opening doors. I have this funny story. I know Bishop Jakes is going through a lot, but that's my hero. I'm with you, Bishop, all the way. Anyways, right? So, my point is, I was at Project Gideon, right? It's a funny story, dude. You'll probably never hear this, but like Bishop is my bro. Like, it's crazy. Like, Bishop to me is like, there's Jesus, Bishop right there, okay? So I'm at Project Gideon, I'm like, yo, I didn't come here and pay this much money to just like hear workshops. So during the breakout sessions, I'm like, where Bishop at? So I looked at the list, I was like, oh, Cora and Sarah and Sarita are all giving a session about like ministry with your kids. Like, Bishop must be at that one, right? I'm walking and I see Bishop, and out of my bed, I was like, Bishop! It just came out, bro. Just came out.
Across the hall.
All the security, they're all looking at me and they're like walking towards me, but Bishop just starts walking towards me, right? And for the first time, I was
you were the first Asian at the gathering. That's why.
Only Asian, dog. It's called leverage, baby. So
the uniqueness,
bro. Redeem all of me. Redeem my color and everything, right? So he starts walking, and I thought to myself, this is what junior high girls feel when they see Justin Bieber. Like, oh my God, like I know I've been rebuking them.
Yeah.
I start stuttering.
Yeah.
I start quoting all his sermons. I'm just saying, Bishop, I just want to say thank you, And then we have a full conversation, and Bishop goes like, I like you. I like you. Then he calls his assistant. He's like, get his number. I was like, my heart just like beat up my chest, takes my number. I get a phone call, and they give me like a VIP ticket for like a lunch that's only like 40 people. And like
That's
you,
wild.
but I brought my crew.
Yeah.
I brought like 3 people with me.
Yeah.
And they also love Bishop. And they were all also Asian too. So
but not a charismatic
they
Asian.
were no Pentecostal Asian, dog. So I remember I told his name was Antoine. I was like, hey, dog, I know it's out of pocket. It's not in place for me to ask, but I brought my crew. Like, can I please bring them? He was like, let me ask. Like, I got you. So I remember we went in, and I was just like, in there like, I was starstruck, dog.
Yeah.
Anyways, when you shared that story about
Wait, so you got your friends in, or you
I
didn't?
got my friends in, bro.
Oh, nice.
So we rolled in. Everyone in that room were mega church pastors. Like, you could just tell multimillionaires all wearing crazy stuff. And here's this Asian dude in the corner just like, they're like, who is this kid? But this story goes even crazy. I don't even know why we're talking about this, but
You got your friends in, though.
I got my friends in,
So
dog.
you're teaching me, in other words, I couldn't get Aaron in to whatever what I was doing.
No, but my point is, though, is like, I feel like that speaks of his character. You know what I'm saying? That to me is I don't want to follow a leader who just has a platform. Like, I want to follow a leader who I know is for me. And
he's literally trying to work it out. I could drive this and then get an Uber and we could do. I'm like, I said, bro, just enjoy.
But the funny thing is, my other homie who came with me, when I texted him, I'm trying to get you in, he had total opposite as you. He was like, bro, you better get me in there, dog. He's like, if you go in there without me, our friendship's on the line, dog. Again. And he was black. My boy's black. He's like, dog, you better get me in there. You're the only Asian here. You better bring a brother with you to get your code. Anyway, but that story, bro, I just thought that story, bro. Shout out to Bishop.
Bishop Jakes. Shout out. Yeah.
Anyways, dog, that's a funny story.
No,
bro.
those are funny stories. And I've had a lot of those. And sometimes it's because, they didn't think you were going to be there. So then they're like, we could fit one person in because weren't originally even going to invite you, know, and you're like, no, that's cool, and stuff. There's always like different circumstances and stuff like that. But I mean, I think just having great relationships, great understanding of each other. It takes honest conversations. Because to me, you also have to have like the rough conversations. You have to have the bad times together. You have to have the rocky times together. You have to have corrective time. Like if you can make it through those seasons, then you can see, how someone really interacts with you and reaches with you and can grow with you. Because if it's all sunny days, and the moment a rainy day comes, everybody just starts splitting. Then to me, that's what you're building for, 100%. Is to be able to handle rainy days. Sunny days are great. You can bring anyone on a sunny day, but
and
when
I feel
a rainy
like
day comes,
most people don't know the amount of work it takes on even a relational level and working professional level to build something like the rainy days. To have that hard talk, like, hey, bro, we fam, but you gotta deliver, bro. Like we need to see the fruit, man. Like, and so I even had conversations like in those stormy days when things aren't working. I remember I have conversations with staff members who I love to death, but things aren't happening. So I would say the same thing. What would you do if you were me?
Yeah.
To help them understand, like, what would you do if you had someone you're working with who may not be in the right position, right? But you get through that, and you have to get through that. It makes you stronger, A
lot of times people don't understand your role is you have to love that person and beloved church at the same time.
Yeah.
And your love for that person can't equal beloved church has to suffer.
Yes. I do this all the time. I don't know if you do this. Maybe I shouldn't do this. I'd be like, hey, man.
Aaron will tell you if I do
I'll be like, hey, I got my homie hat on.
Oh, okay.
So let's talk. And then I go like, all right, I'm taking that off, bro.
Yeah.
I'm putting boss hat on right now. So just know, like, we're still fam. But I need to think about the organization, and I'm putting that right on right now. So let's talk with that in mind. And it helps even kind of like, all right, because sometimes it gets muddy.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Because it's like,
I don't put it in that level of clarity. Most of the time, what I'll say is can I speak to you as a friend? You know, that's kind of the most I'll say in that. May I speak to you as a friend?
Yeah.
And to me, that, you know, they know what that means. But I mean, maybe I don't do it well, but I really blend the two sometimes because they go hand in hand. So I don't always qualify this conversation is going to come from friend or boss or whatever.
Here's how I've known.
You know,
Here's how I've known where Pastor Adam is my
You know
boss.
when the switch comes on.
Here's what he'll schedule a meeting. He never schedules it. He never schedules.
It's like, oh snap!
He'll tell me, hey bro, just looking to meet. Are you available next week? Oh, you want to schedule me?
or Nancy or Phil will email someone and Adam wants to meet with you. Like, so it ain't lunch, I guess.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Or Nathan schedules it. Can you meet? You know, Nathan's my executive
Everyone's
pastor.
calling all the
Can
other
you
staff.
meet with me and Pastor Adam on
Adam
Thursday?
been saying anything in the room? Anything I should be prepared for this? That's funny.
Like, I know it.
Yeah.
Other staff. Aaron wouldn't. You've grown past that, but we've grown past having to have those type of conversations. But other staff, they want to know ahead of time what's this going to be about, or what, you know, talking to other people or whatever. Like,
For sure.
you know, why Pastor Adam wants to meet with me or whatever. You know, like, I don't know.
Yeah, dude. It's complicated relationships, but we make it work, dude. We make it work.
Yeah, and that to me, that not corporate settings always have to be that, but ministry.
Yeah.
Ministry, the only way that it's enjoyable is if you're developing relationships with your team and there's a level of authenticity to it, or else it could become a corporate thing. Mm-hmm. And if you do that, then you start approaching God's church strictly as a business, because it's all about mitigating risk and growing the top dollar, the numbers, you know, rather than another conversation Aaron and I had during COVID was, you're trying to come out of COVID and not be discouraged. So you're seeing your weekly attendance and you're seeing your giving going down. Mm-hmm. And that was a weekly conversation we'd have. Aaron would feel like he'd have to apologize at a downtick for attendance and the numbers and blah, blah, blah,
but we got this thing coming. We're gonna talk to the mayor and we're going to do this thing in the community and I would have that. It
was the next big idea, of how we're going to boost attendance or bring giving back. And then I just said, bro, I don't know how I approached it, but I just basically said, why don't you focus on learning the name of all the 100 people that are coming? You can do that. You can manage that. Like,
we literally made that a thing.
Yeah.
We called ALFC Pomona the Christian church. Sometimes you want to go where everyone wants to know your name. He told me two things: make the church sticky, learn everybody's name. He said, ignore the numbers. So I just made cultural language. Hey, we don't care about the numbers. We just want to be good neighbors. You want to go to a place where everybody knows their name. Then we focus on internal health. As soon as we started ignoring the numbers and making it sticky,
that's right.
All of a sudden.
Oh, yeah, bro.
Well, then a few months ago, he sends me a picture of their growth track class, their membership class, and Aaron's like, I don't recognize a single person in this room.
Yeah.
And 24 months before that,
oh my God,
he could know everyone in the room because it was his family and 5 other families, and then
you created that culture, where the love was there. So now that it's been replicated within the ethos, so now it's happening on its own.
Yeah, but it's up to me to continue that. I can't stay stuck there, right? So what I'm telling Pomona now is like, we don't know everybody's name. Once you know their name, start knowing their story. Yeah. Once you start knowing their story, now identify their purpose, help them through the discipleship. But it started with that scheduled Zoom meeting.
Bro,
let's meet on Zoom.
I am
on Zoom.
I am horrible with names. Like, it's so bad that I sometimes forget my friends' names.
Really?
Let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what happened. I preached in Rancho earlier this year. And after, I was in the foyer just greeting people, blah, blah, blah. And people, oh, good message, Pastor. Oh, man, So, you're bracing for those affirmations. This woman comes and she starts crying. She's like, oh, my God. I was like, man, I must have really. She was like, you remembered my name 2 years ago during COVID. Remember, you asked to see my smile. You took down my mouth. And then when I came back the next week, you said my name and you said back for more. She said, that's when I knew it was home. She said nothing about the sermon, nothing about the worship. We remembered her name. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think if you, I mean, there's the book How to Win and Influence Friends. Like one rule was like remember people's names.
Yeah.
I just gave up on it.
There's a lot of things I'm bad at, but I'm pretty good. I've worked hard at the name
that's
thing.
good. You should.
When I meet someone, I repeat it 3 times back to them. And so I say, hey, what's your name? Oh, my name's Will. Oh, your name's Will. I connect it to a Will that I may know.
Yeah.
So I would say, one of my best friends is Will in church on the podcast. Have you ever seen the podcast before?
Yeah.
They go, yeah, I have. So I immediately connect it, or William Wilberforce. He was one of the great people in Ireland. You ever seen Braveheart?
Yeah.
I'll connect it immediately to some type of broader name that I know of that person.
Yeah.
Then I talk to them, and then I repeat it again. If I can't remember it again, I'll ask, can you tell me your name one more time?
Yeah.
They tell me their name one more time. People are going to be listening to this, like, he has done that to me. I repeat it one more time. I say it back to them again, and then when they walk away, I say it 3 times in my head again.
See,
and so I do that over and over because we meet our people out in the courtyard after services. So I'll get a line of people, and if they tell me their name, or some people just say good message, I'll say thank you.
Yeah.
But we're talking for a minute, I want to try to learn their name, and so they'll walk away. I'll repeat it over and over and over and over, and I'm probably like maybe 6 out of 10, but I'm talking I'll can meet 300 people on a Sunday, and I maybe can remember 200 of them.
My name recalling is so bad that I like research, like the brain stuff we're talking about.
Yeah.
No, I could watch a movie, full movie. I'll watch it a year later as if I've never seen it before.
Really?
I'm not even exaggerating. You can ask my wife when she comes in a little bit.
Yeah.
But like so I was like, is there something like off in my brain? But like,
what do you retain really well?
It's if I really care about something. If I really care about something, and like I have to remember it.
You've done those personality tests? What's your main personality test you've done?
I've done a lot. I've done DISC, done Strength Finders. I've done Myers-Briggs. I've done Culture Index. I've done it all.
What's it? Enneagram?
What's
your Enneagram?
8-wing-7.
Well, that'd be why.
Yeah.
Right?
But anyways, dude, the name. I just gotta remember those names. Dog.
Yeah, that's the 8, bro. That's you be blowing through walls, bro. You blow through walls.
Oh,
that makes sense.
It's so bad, dude. It's so bad.
Whenever you don't remember someone's name, just introduce them to your wife. No, I'm serious.
No, for sure.
I see somebody come in, I'm like, what's their name? Hey, what's up? Have you met my wife, Erica? And then they'll say
I do it
their
all
name.
the time.
Okay,
I do it all the time, and I still forget right after that.
Oh, okay.
See, I'm more unique. I just go, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. Could you repeat it?
Yeah.
The worst is when I know their name and they say, what's my name? And then you lose it because they did that. They're like, do you remember my name? And when they walked up, I'm like, oh, here's Janice.
This is
and
to
they go,
me,
you're married. And I'm like, oh, I had it. And they're like, yeah, right.
I don't know. I feel like for the audience listening, this is such a funny, at least a pastor struggle.
Yeah.
Like no one else really cares, right? And they're not
they see our names every week.
Yeah. For me, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I don't remember the name, I'm gonna hurt them. Like I've walked with them, I prayed for them, I've seen them for 6 months now.
I know.
But my hard drive's just full, dog. So
well, another thing I do is I'll ask them to DM me on Instagram if they're male. I'll say, hey, DM me. DM me, if they're asking for something, and I could answer it right there, but I'll say DM me so that I try to remember their Instagram, like their name and stuff like that through that too. That's another way I try to, because I think, and hear from from pastors, I genuinely want that connection with people.
For sure, absolutely.
I think the outside view of pastors in like a non-setting of our own, they think, oh, pastors, they just want to fill the room and they just want to. It's like, no, we actually want to manage well. If the Lord wants to fill the room, we want to manage that. And I don't think, for the most part, most pastors that are visionaries like all of us, in the sense that we want to reach people. We're not content with a room being small, not because it's small, it's because we know there's more people out there.
Sure.
And so whether we plant new churches or whatever, it's not an idea to just get big. It's like look at the world out today. There needs to be more believers in the world.
For sure.
So it's like, really, it's our desire, though. We want to know a person's name. We want to know their story. We want other people in the church to know each other and their names and their stories. And so that is a genuine, like, I'll walk away if I missed 4 or 5 people's names. I'll on my couch later on that afternoon, like, it's like, you just, man, you got to do better at it. Like, we're beating ourselves up over missing someone's name, you know? Like, and I don't think people think that, you know? They would think we were just like, oh, well, we packed out today and we blah, blah, blah. It's like,
Bro,
no, man.
People probably don't even think this. Like, even though I'm a pastor of, you know, nothing compared to how large you guys are. But if there's someone who doesn't come to church for 2-3 weeks, I think about them.
Yeah.
I'm like, not because like it's for my ego, but just like my heart's like, man, are they okay?
Yeah.
Like, are they all right? Where are they?
Oh, for sure.
Is everything okay with their marriage, their kids, their family? Those things are always, that's such a unique, I think, experience of a shepherd, right? And they don't think you think that.
Yeah.
But then you also don't have the bandwidth to message every single person. So it's just this, this wrestling.
Well, my common response at the church, the campus that I'm speaking at is you know, when I'm at other places or like I'm airline, I'm talking to a stewardess, and some people always ask, well, what's the size of your congregation? And I'll share, right? And they'll say, how do you know everyone? And I say, well, I don't. And then they're like, well, isn't that a bad thing? And then I'll be like, well, I'll say this. Anyone that wants to be known, I know them. And anyone that doesn't want to be known, I don't know them. But I know everyone in our church who wants to be known, who wants to sit in relatively the same seat, who wants to walk up after service and say hello and share an update about their life. I know them. You know, I know part of their story. I know most of the time, a lot of times I know their name. And this is thousands of people. I know thousands of people's names. I know thousands of people's stories for those that are pretty much regularly doing the same thing. For that person who comes to church almost every week besides, you know, special occasion. But yeah, if you know, the average church attender goes 1.6 times a month. Yeah. So it's like, the individual who fits the one time a month, I don't know. Yeah. And I can't think about too often. But for that person who's there weekly, you're not there a month. I am thinking about you, you know, and I try to tell that to as many people as possible when I see them again. I was thinking about you the other day. I was just talking to one of the friends in the church, brothers in the church, who's older, and he just retired from his job. He told me, I just retired 2 weeks ago. I said, man, that's crazy. You were on my heart 2 weeks ago when I was driving, and I and it was a true statement. I didn't like make it up. I was like, I was praying for you, and so crazy that I had no idea that you were in that season where you had your last day of work and you retired, and I was like, that's cool what the Lord did. I was thinking about you and I was praying for you, and there, lo and behold, you had your last day of work. And he was like, we had a little moment. It's like, we want to have as many of those experiences as possible, you know? Absolutely. But I think you could take that into anything. And we're not doing it as a means of success. We're doing that because that's a pastoral heart.
100%.
But I'll tell you this, if you own a bakery or coffee shop, if you try to remember people who come in regularly, their name, and write their name on the cup before they walk in, I'll tell you this, they'll die for your coffee shop. They will literally, on their deathbed, ask for a cup of coffee if you could take on those.
I got to memorize names, dog. That's my takeaway from this part. I got to memorize these names, bro.
Or figure a way something to remember, you know. Yeah. But again, part of it is development and personality and stuff like that, because there'd probably another relational strength you have that I'm probably would be very weak at. So our personalities a lot of times drive
100%.
You know, which more of my spiritual gift is a little more of the apostolic kingdom side. So I'm always surprised that I even care that much to want to know people's names.
I'm certified with something called Culture Index, and I have your.
Oh yeah, you have my thing.
He's just a monster. I still got to break it down with you, bro.
We never
You say he's a monster?
As in, like, in a good way. He's a beast. Okay. He's what they call a enterpriser, which is like, he's driven by the macro. Enough is always more. Okay. We should break this down. There's never enough for Adam. Enough in this world equals more. And he has what's called selective sociability. So he's social when he has to be. Doesn't mean he doesn't love people. He's just more, and he would turn it on for the vision. Yeah. And I still remember your profile, and he's fast paced. So he could do multiple things well, but you have what's called a detail hook, which means you're particular. You're not detailed.
He's reading your mail,
bro. You're particular, but you are particular for what you care about. Yeah. So what you care about something, you're like a pit bull. You're going to bite, and you aren't going to let go until it happens. It doesn't matter if a storm or, not everyone's like that though, right? So your profile is, but then that hook gives you the ability to recall, remember, and follow through. So for you, if you perceive remembering people's names is important, your brain has an ability to recall, remember, and follow through on everything you've committed to. Anyways, that's a whole assessment that I want to do with him. We just haven't found the time. But.
Yeah. He begged me for months to do it, and then I finally did it. But the gathering, he was going to break it down. I had to leave early, so we didn't have a chance to do it. But
anyways.
You just find this online?
It's like a
or
Frankenstein.
Yeah, you got to pay for it.
Okay.
But
he's like a certified interpreter of it.
It's the only assessment that we use at our church.
Yeah,
because it's like for me, I've done so much. It's like game changer.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
Yeah, when he shared stuff, I was like, but disc and all that. But that one was very unique because you explained it, where like you do Enneagram or whatever. It's like you gotta read. This
but
whole
he
thing.
explained you.
Yeah.
No, but I think about this. So someone like Adam with his profile, if Adam says, "Can we do this?" Someone says, "Oh, we can't do it." Oh my God! For Adam, it's
a cuss word.
It's like you can't.
Yeah.
That's not
For
even
sure.
in his vocabulary.
Yeah.
It's like for Adam, like there is always a way. If there is no way, we'll make a way. But not everyone's like that.
Yeah.
That's the thing people don't know. Some people are like, I'm content. This is great. Adam's like, we have 3 campuses, we need 10 campuses. We got 10 campuses, we need 100 campuses. We got 100, we need 1,000. It's just the way it's wired. But what makes you unique is you have that detail dot, the D trait, that you have the brain to make it happen. So a lot of people, they have big dreams. But you ask them how, they go, I don't know. You ask this guy how, bop, 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 bop. And that's your unique wiring. And then what makes him a wild card too is that he has that yellow, which is the B trait. He could bring it to people with him. Because some people, their yellow is too low, so they just got to do it by themselves. Because they can't read people, they can't hoo-ah people, they can't. So our profile is a little similar, but you have a stronger follow-through gift than I do. So I look at everything you're doing, bro.
That's crazy.
Yeah, anyways.
That's pretty cool. That's always fascinating.
It is. It talks about our transition we're going through.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, that's dope. All right, man. This was a great episode, bro.
That was fun, bro.
I'm excited for the next one. People have to look. I don't even know how these launch or drop, but later on we're going to do one with your wife. So people need to check out the next Beyond I Do one, whether it came out before or after. I don't know how we have it in the week right now, but that one's going to be fun. For those that made it to the end of this, go to whenever the next Beyond I Do drop is for Will and his wife. So we're going to see if everything he's always shared and talked about is true or not. No, I'm just playing.
We call her Dr. Dre.
Yeah, and she's a doctor of education, doctor, right?
in education.
That's very impressive.
Yeah.
Can't wait to watch
All right,
it.
y'all. Thanks,
y'all.
Will. Thanks, Will. Peace.